Greetings everyone! Today we're going to explore how to multiply and divide rational expressions. You'll definitely want to take down some of these examples in your notes, and you may or may not need a calculator, but most of it can be done with mental math. Our objective today is to learn how to simplify rational expressions accurately. A couple of rules that you might want to jot down. When you multiply fractions, you multiply straight across. For example, if I have 1/4 multiplied by 1/5, I multiply straight across and I end up with 1/20. When you divide fractions, you flip the second fraction or the reciprocal and change it to multiplication. So when you first learn this, we usually just said flip and multiply. So for example, if I have 1/4 divided by 1/5, I'm going to change that to 1/4 times 5/1. Now I can multiply straight across. Again, make sure you flip the second fraction. And as always, simplify the fractions if possible. So for example, don't leave an answer as 5/20. You want to reduce that down to 1/4. To start off with this multiplication example, you want to take care of your factors first. Remember, we want to use GCF, possibly AC, possibly grouping, but you want to break it down as far as you can. If I take a look at the first numerator, my GCF is 2x. I have left x minus 5. If I look at my first denominator, difference of squares, x plus 5, x minus 5. Those difference of squares aren't going away, so make sure that you don't forget about those. As for the second fraction, x plus 3 is already simplified, and 2x squared is already simplified. If I multiply straight across, I end up with 2x, x minus 5, x plus 3. And in the denominator, I'm going to put the 2x squared out front, x plus 5, x minus 5. Let's take a look at what I can cancel. I'm dividing x minus 5 by x minus 5. Since that's 1, we can get rid of those. 2 divided by 2, x divided by x squared. I have 1 on top and 2 on bottom. So I like to think of it this way. I have 2 x's on the bottom, 1 on top, which means I can cross off or divide out one of each. Therefore, up top, all I have remaining is an x plus 3. And on bottom, I still have 1x and an x plus 5. Let's break it apart by each numerator and each denominator. If I look at this numerator, I can take out a GCF of 4x. I have x minus 1 remaining. Remember, if you divide something by itself, you still have a 1 there. Let's look at the first denominator. If I use AC method, I'm going to do that off to the side here, I have -3 and 2. Multiples of 3 are 1 and 3. But I have to get a positive 2 if I add them together, which means this is going to be a -1. Therefore, I end up with x squared minus 1x plus 3x minus 3. If I group, I end up with x minus 1 plus 3, x minus 1, x plus 3, and x minus 1. We're going to continue to do a lot of factoring, so make sure that that AC method is good to go. Let's take a look at the next numerator. I have x squared plus x minus 6. I'm going to use AC method. A times C, B goes on the bottom. Multiples of 6 that can get me to 1. 1 and 6, 2 and 3. But I need a negative 2 in order to fulfill those signs and values. X squared minus 2x plus 3x minus 6. Grouping. Take an x out of the first set. Take a 3 out of the second set. I take out my GCF of x minus 2. Then I have x plus 3 remaining. So my numerator is x minus 2, x plus 3. And my final denominator doesn't simplify, so we'll leave that as is. Now I have to remember that I'm multiplying. So I'm going to multiply straight across and write out all of my factors. For the denominator, I'm going to bring that 4x out front and then write my factors. Let's see what we can cancel. I have a 4x and a 4x, x minus 1, x minus 1, x plus 3, x plus 3. So my final solution is just x minus 2. That's all we end up with that is remaining. Let's take a look at this example. It looks a little different at first because the second part is not a fraction, but we can always turn it into a fraction by putting it over 1. The first numerator is already simplified. The first denominator needs a little bit of work. Difference of squares, again, it's not going to go away. Plus 2 minus 2. My next numerator needs to be factored out. I'm going to use AC method off to the side. We've got a 9 and a 6. So it actually ends up being positive 3, positive 3. So 3x, 3x, 9. Can take an x out. Take a 3 out. If I take out my GCF of x plus 3, I have an x plus 3 remaining, and that's okay. We can end up with the same thing. Just make sure that you understand that this we only write once. That's my GCF that I took out, and the x plus 3 is what I have remaining. Okay, so let's write that as my new numerator. And it's all still over 1. We're multiplying, so I'm going to multiply straight across. On the denominator, you can put the 1 out front, but we actually don't really need it anymore. Let's see what we have to cancel. X plus 2 divided by x plus 2 is 1, so I can get rid of that. And I am left with the x plus 3 over x minus 2. So unfortunately, those factors of x squared plus 6x plus 9 didn't simplify. So if you'd like to leave it as x squared plus 6x plus 9 all over x minus 2, that would be completely simplified. If you choose to leave them as factors for right now, I'm okay with that as well. Let's look at this division problem. If I look at the first numerator, it's already simplified. The first denominator has a GCF. We can take a 3 out. Now, I'm going to take care of this dividing right away. I want to turn it to multiplying. So I'm going to take this current numerator and I'm going to write it as a denominator factored out. My GCF is x, and I'm left with x minus 2. So it was a numerator, and now it's a denominator. This denominator will then become my numerator. We have to do AC method. I've got an 8 and a negative 6. Factors of 8, 1 and 8, 2 and 4. See, the 2 and 4 could get me to negative 6. They both have to be negative. Double check that work when you do the AC method. I now have minus 2x minus 4x plus 8. Let's group. I'm going to take out an x. I'm going to take out a negative 4. The reason why I'm taking out a negative is so that my signs match. My GCF is x minus 2, and I'm left with x minus 4. That is my new numerator. So I took care of the flip and multiply. So now I'm going to multiply straight across and write out all my factors. I'm going to bring this x out front since it's by itself. And then I'll write my other factors. Let's see what divides out. X minus 2 divided by x minus 2. X minus 4 divided by x minus 4. X and x. I'm actually only left with 2/3 as my final solution. If you need to, take some of these examples and try to work them on their own, and then check back at these solutions. You want to be prepared for some independent practice tomorrow in class. Let me know if you need any extra help.